Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior and welcome back to another Mortal Kombat video. Now in today's video, I wanted to talk about the 3D era of Mortal Kombat, and aspects of it many of us may have in fact never really known about. You see, the 3D era of Mortal Kombat games are kind of a mixed bag really. Many are glimmering ideas that were unfortunately limited by either their creativity or simply limitations of the time. Point is, they either shined really bright or well, were really bad. I think glimmering examples of this era are characters and ideas like Kenshi, Onaga, the One Being, the Chaos Realm, the Order Realm, as well as the introduction of the conquest mode. Really good ideas that honestly helped define the 3D era of games. But what if I were to tell you some of these ideas here didn't in fact derive from the 3D era? What if I were to tell you that the strong aspects of the 3D era in fact derived from other bits of fiction in the series? Well, let's get onto it, as I found this pretty interesting to look into. It's in fact something I accidentally came across when I was doing the History of the Gods episode. The One Being, whilst being an omnipotent and powerful deity on a grand scale, is in fact an original idea that was taken from another bit of fiction in the Mortal Kombat series. You see, back in 1995, cinemas around the world would be graced with the first ever live action Mortal Kombat movie, and to somewhat coincide with its release, a novel was created in order to expand the series. You see, back in 1995, Mortal Kombat was still in its infancy and riding off the success of the creation of the ESRB, so the universe was still very fresh, very new. There were really only 3 main installments in the series, and the only bit of somewhat expansive lore was its non-canonical comic book line with Malibu Comics. There wasn't exactly too much when it came to world building in the Mortal Kombat series. That is, until the novel was made. Written by Jeff Rovin, it was a spin-off novel set in the Mortal Kombat universe, designed to expand the world and breathe life into the spaces where gaps were left. Jeff was given free rein to use his imagination to depict how the universe could be formed, and thus, due to the martial arts influence of the series, as well as the dragon symbol, Jeff decided to pull different ideas from very old Chinese folklore to help influence the world and story he was looking to build. Now, it is worth mentioning here that this novel strongly deviated away from the source material, adding new characters, new backgrounds, and it even liked the main trio of heroes, with Johnny Cage being absent and Liu Kang forming a relationship with Sonya Blade. So with no real / true bit of source material to work with, Rovin was kind of able to do whatever he wished, as nothing was really yet set in stone. I mean, the Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade relationship wouldn't actually be a thing up until the Mortal Kombat movie's release, just to give you an idea of how early on in the universe we were. But let's now talk about the One Being and how Jeff Rovin's novel ties into this. Well, in the novel, there is a grand deity that is very similar to that of the One Being, but doesn't go by the same name, originally being called Punku. Based off Chinese myths during the Three Kingdoms era, Punku was described in Chinese culture as the living primordial titan from which all derives from. He created the idea of good and evil, forged the earth and separated the land from the sky, and created both the sun and the moon. After 18,000 years of hard work and labor, Punku finally perished, but left one final parting gift with the world he forged: his physical being. Upon Punku's death, his voice would become the thunder in the sky, his breath would become the wind in the air, and his eyes would become the sun and the moon. From here he does so much more, but in short, Punku's physical being would give birth to the world as we know it, and thus is seen as the predecessor of all that exists in the world. Now this does lead up to the somewhat gods, that do actually mirror the elder gods in the Mortal Kombat universe. Now Tien is synonymous in Chinese culture as basically a heaven of sorts, with the other 2 realms outside of this being heaven and hell. So yes, once again, very similar to the Mortal Kombat universe. However, in this novel, Tien is instead a physical being forged from the soul of Punku, and from here he would create the gods as we know it, that would in turn, out of boredom, forge man, giving them the world that Punku had left for his children. So from what you can tell, there are a lot of similarities with the Jeff Rovin novel, as well as the depiction of the One Being in the 3D era. Both are primordial deities, both helped forge a universe and played a role in creating the realms as we know it. However, the differences between the two are night and day. The One Being is far more villainous and one-track minded, wanting to reunite his body and carry on his feud with the Elder Gods, whilst Punku is far more grandiose in scale, coming across as more heroic in his sacrifice. sacrifice, but this in turn does make the story a little more dry, as the feud between the One Being and the Elder Gods allows for the universe to be born in a far more dramatic way, one forged in both blood and fire, so it's better from a storytelling standpoint. Now whilst this could be a mere coincidence of two fictional deities, the One Being is in fact just one of many different ideas that were taken and rebranded for the 3D era of games as a fresh concept with a new shiny veneer. The truth is, Punku just predates the 3D era by about 7 years, so I really do not doubt that the One Being in one way, shape and form was more than likely inspired by Rovin's novel, as there are just a lot of similarities. Now let's actually tackle some other ones. The Chaos Realm and the Order Realm. Wait, what? The Chaos Realm and Order Realm are original ideas that derive from only the 3D era of games, right? Well, not entirely. You see, this actually brings us back to the expanded spin-off comic book series, the Malibu Comics. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with this comic book line, it was a comic book series published in 1994 by Malibu Comics as an extremely loose adaptation of the series. So all of the events that happened in the comics were strictly non-canonical and didn't affect the main story of games. Now, due to this and them being cut off from the main continuity, they were able to come up with some pretty crazy stories, like one where Sonya was forced to marry Shao Kahn. The creative team were able to do whatever they wished with the comics and characters at hand, and thus because of this, the sky was the limit. Malibu published a series of different arcs: Mortal Kombat Blood and Thunder, Kung Lao Rising Sun, Kitana and Mileena Sisters Act. They really went to town here, but the arc I want to solely focus on is Mortal Kombat Goro Prince of Pain. During the Prince of Pain arc, it is here where we are introduced to the God of Order and God of Chaos, Abacus and Zagat. Now Abacus and Zagat are really interesting in terms of creation and character, as they are pretty different from their main Mortal line counterparts. Whilst in the main line of games, the Order realm is a strict cutthroat authoritarian realm, Abacus's depiction in the comics is far different from what you'd expect. Coming across as fairly articulate and passive, Abacus decides to sit on the sidelines, allowing the natural order of life to do as it wishes. Instead of indulging in mortal affairs, he chooses to spend his time in libraries, reading and getting lost in literature, whereas his chaotic counterpart Zagat actively attempts to cause destruction at every waking moment. By doing so, it does allow him to grow in power. Now these two brother gods also share the unique trait of sharing the same pool of energy, and what I mean by this is that they share each other's power in the most literal sense. So when Abacus becomes stronger, Zagat becomes weaker, and when Zagat becomes stronger, Abacus becomes weaker. It's a very interesting connection that the two brother gods do share. Now back on the topic of the Prince of Pain arc, Zagat does play an antagonistic role, causing chaos across the realms. After accumulating enough power, he's able to reveal his true new form, something that visually and physically rivals Goro, but alas Zagat would be defeated. So the idea of order and chaos has most certainly existed a long time before the 3D era had established the idea, although it was in a different form, as the comics were published 10 years before the 3D era games incorporated the Order realm and the Chaos realm. So the Malibu comics are in fact where this idea derives from. It's just the 3D era of games that take this idea and actually expand it in its own direction, one that I would say is in fact far more creative. Now I'm fairly sure that these ones go without saying, but it is worth mentioning as we're on the topic of characters and ideas that in fact inspired individuals of the 3D era, as there are characters that are straight up homages of other characters in fiction. Cobra is a very good example, a mix and match blend of Ken from Street Fighter and Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai. That is without a shadow of a doubt of where Cobra's influences do come from. Fun fact, even in the early stages of development, Cobra was given the name of Ken Masters as a placeholder name till they could come up with his name. So that's a little fun fact for you about Cobra and where his influences clearly do come from. Now this one does make me feel slightly old considering the popularity of the MCU these days, but Darius's visual and costume design is clearly a homage to the late 90s and early 2000s comic book hero Blade. Yes, the Marvel Blade. Blade as a comic book movie was kind of big for its time. It helped break the mold of old campy superhero flicks with a dark edgy anti-hero that blurred the lines of right and wrong whilst bringing horror to the superhero genre, something that's pretty rare. Now another clear reason as to why Darius looked like Blade was most certainly an attempt to capitalize on the hype behind the films, as you do see at the time. Deception was released the same year that Blade Trinity came out, that being 2004, so Darius was more than likely created for 1 to pay homage to Wesley Snipes, and 2 probably get some extra eyes on the product, as it could be seen as Blade being in a fighting game, but that is honestly where the similarities do end, as Darius is nothing like Blade. Now whilst this video could be me coming across as a bit ranty going, ha ha ha, look at the 3D era, so unoriginal, as let's face it, we all do know I give these games a hard time. I actually really like what they did here, and although they aren't original, they are different enough to have been taken in their own direction and become their own thing. They are familiar, yes, but by them being expanded on, they're able to become their own original concepts, while still somewhat homaging their origins. So yes, whilst I do poke at certain ideas and concepts, there are some here that are genuinely really good, and I do wish till this day we did see more of. Unless it's more blatant plagiarism like Cobra and Blade. You can get out of here, instead just give me these guest characters. But please don't do that. But yes guys, that's it for me for now. I do hope you have enjoyed this video and come away learning a little bit more. It's a little bit of fun on my part, of things that you might not have known at home. I do want to say I apologize for the really up and down schedule recently. Work has most certainly gotten the better of me, because for those of you who don't know, I am in fact a commentator in my free time for Mortal Kombat 11. So quick heads up, I will be absent for the next week and a half, as I am going to be flown out to Kyiv, Ukraine to commentate a Mortal Kombat 11 tournament. I put a sneak preview of what the event actually is at the end, so please do keep an eye out for that. But don't worry, there's plenty more content on the way. I will be vlogging my journey out there as well, so you can see what the esports side of Mortal Kombat 11's like behind closed doors. I currently have another Devil May Cry video in the pipeline, so you will be getting your history of Dante. There is going to be a Christmas special, to which Sean Kittleson will return, which is something I'm very excited about. I'm not going to reveal what it is just yet. I'm going to save it for Christmas Day for all of you. And I do have another history of video in the pipeline right now. So rest assured, plenty of content on the way. And I'm super sorry you guys haven't been getting the regular uploads that you'd expect from me. Don't worry, that all changes very soon. But until then, that's been it for me. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more videos like this in the future, where I talk about some unorthodox stuff that some of you may not know, please do comment down below, as this is actually really fun to put together. So if possible, let's try getting this video to about 500 likes, and a comment is always appreciated. But until then, that's it for me. So now, as always guys, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time. Hello everyone, I'm History Behind the Warrior, and today, courtesy of the fantastic people at We Play, I'm very excited to announce that I'll be part of the commentary lineup for the Dragon Temple. Taking place in a custom arena in Kyiv, Ukraine, it's going to be an absolute bloodbath of all the talent that we do have coming in from across the world. There's a lot to fight for and a lot to prove, with $60,000 on the line. So please, in your calendars, jot down December the 10th, as that's when the tournament will begin, spanning over the course of 3 days. If you've been missing out on some high-level Mortal Kombat 11 gameplay, this is without a doubt the place to be. So once again, December the 10th. But until then, that's been it for me. Stay safe, keep well, and keep on fighting, and we'll see you all over there.